In new documents exclusive to Blacklock's reporter, the federal government is spending nearly $900,000 to study Canadians' resilience to a problem that seems to exist exclusively inside of Catherine McKenna's head. A new report just released by Blacklock's reporter shows the Department of Health will spend $866,000 to pay the University of Ottawa School of Human Kinetics to study Canadians' tolerance to heat in homes, schools, and businesses. According to Blacklock's, the department wrote that, and I quote, "Defining heat temperature thresholds is an important and necessary step to protecting human comfort and health from excessive heat resulting from climate change that will threaten Canadians in the coming decades." All you have to do is plug Catherine McKenna plus extreme heat into any social media platform or search engine, and you're in for a real treat. It's just pages and pages and pages of the environment minister making these wacky claims about extreme heat and forest fires and drought and floods and extreme heat again. Here's just a few examples. Facts. Pollution isn't free. Canadians are paying huge cost of forest fires, floods, and extreme heat. Next one. If you're worried about the debt being left to our kids, you should be outraged by the price they'll pay for the damage caused by climate change, forest fires, extreme heat, flooding. And you know what? She liked that last tweet so much that she doubled up on it, and she tried it again a month later in response to Andrew Scheer's critiques of her government's out-of-control spending habits. Blah, blah, blah. If you're worried about the debt being left to our kids, you should be outraged by the price they'll pay for damage caused by, you guessed it, climate change, forest fires, extreme heat, and floods. Boy, they probably workshopped the daylights out of that last tweet, didn't they? Now, this is probably my favorite thing, though. McKenna stood up in the House of Commons and then reported heat-related deaths to her parliamentary peers. Just watch.
There is a huge cost of climate change. That people that are facing extreme heat, people died this summer because of extreme heat in Quebec and Ontario. We had forest fires. I've had to call ranchers who've lost their whole ranch because it's burned down. I've helped sandbag because there have been floods that have impacted people's homes. This is a huge cost, and the cost is only going to grow if we don't take action.
McKenna has repeated this bizarro claim about extreme heat being deadly Canadians, even once claiming that it killed 90 of us last summer. So much that she thinks the rest of Canada out here on the frozen tundra is starting to believe it. News flash, sister, we're not. Because outside of McKenna's fantastical utterances on the record in the House of Commons, there's really no proof to back up her claims. On the other hand, there's proof to the contrary of her claims, and lots of it. Heat deaths are not a problem. And don't take my word for it. A study published in the British journal Lancet examined 74 million deaths in 13 countries between 1985 and 2012. Of those deaths, 5.4 million deaths were related to the cold, while just 311,000 were related to heat. Meaning cold kills 20 times more people than heat. And closer to home, statistics also back that up. This is an article from the Ottawa Public Health warning of the dangers of cold weather. According to that article, in Canada, more than 80 people each year die from overexposure to cold. And the elderly, children, infants, the homeless, newcomers to Canada, as well as outdoor workers and sports enthusiasts are the most susceptible to the cold. So mostly everyone who goes outside at one point or another. So McKenna has got her numbers close enough to correct as far as the number of dead people go, but she's on the wrong side of the thermometer. It's not 90 people dead from heat exposure. It's 80 or more people dead from the cold on average each and every year. It's pathological for McKenna to keep up the charade, but she must because she needs to bring in her carbon tax to dump a bunch of money into the government's coffers to keep Trudeau's spending habits going. I would argue that freezing to death is very clearly a problem for humanity, and the last thing people need is more expensive, life-saving fossil fuels when they have the threat of hypothermia death around the corner every single year as the seasons continue to change. McKenna's wackiness about extreme heat killing Canadians, it's like a golem. Do you know what a golem is? And I'm not talking about the Lord of the Rings little creature. It's a mythical Jewish creature, like a big man crafted out of clay. Think clay Frankenstein. The story goes that a Czech rabbi created a golem out of clay to defend the Jewish community from anti-Semitic attacks. But then the golem grows fearsome and violent and malevolent, and the rabbi then is forced to destroy it. It was created from nothing and took on a life of its own. McKenna breathed life into this creative fiction about heat deaths to protect her carbon tax, and now it's turning on her as the facts get inconvenient and then get in the way. You see, the normal people know better. But this is also demonstrative of the power of the liberal narrative keepers in the mainstream media and the compliance of bureaucrats to march in lockstep with a progressive government. It shows us the bubble they live and play in Ottawa. The government, unchecked by the mainstream media, is now spending nearly $1 million of your money to study McKenna's golem like it's a real man. For the Rebel.media, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. Catherine McKenna is on her way to Poland right now to the UN Climate Change Conference. I'm going next week. Now, McKenna has had the UN ban me from attending the conference, so I'll be outside most of the whole time. Hopefully the cold doesn't kill me, but I'll be there to tell the other side of this story. If you can help pitch in to cover the cost of our independent journalism and our trip there, go to rebelun.com.